right, welcome to the second review of the evening. Up this time is Fancy Solitaire for the Nintendo Switch. As far as I can see, this is a Nintendo Switch only game, though that might not preclude it being on, like, say, the PlayStation 4 or something like that. Didn't see it in Steam. Anyway, um, so Fancy Solitaire is a proper game of solitaire, not to be confused with the Fire Emblem Solitaire game that we reviewed a few weeks back, which was, more a solitaire-esque puzzle game.
Yeah, this is true Klondike Solitaire.
Mm-hmm. And yes, there are many forms of solitaire, but Klondike's the one you think of when you think of solitaire. That's, the default Microsoft solitaire.
Yeah.
Once again, Microsoft has done other solitaire things, but they didn't get packed in as frequently as just what they called solitaire.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know they packed in Free Cell, which is another form of solitaire.
Yeah, Free Cell and Spider.
Mm-hmm. But
There was almost a riot when it was let out. They didn't include Solitaire in Windows 10. You had to buy it or you had to get it off the Windows Store.
right. Apparently, another name for Klondike is Patience.
Yeah, Patience is like the European term for solitaire as a card game.
Right. Also, there are two major varieties, the Draw 1 and the Draw 3 variations. Usually you'll find those packaged together. Once again, Microsoft Solitaire. Um, so, as far as I know, this is indeed Solitaire, as it is traditionally known. Now, as to the question of how fancy it is, over to the Galax.
The fanciness in this version of Solitaire is pretty much exclusively aesthetic. It's 3D, you get a fancy fireworks show if you win, and you have a significant number of choices for the surface you're playing on, the card back design, the font on the front side of the cards, or the typeface, or whatever you call it, card back, card front, table design, and there are several different music tracks that you can have play while you do it. But other than that, there's very little here outside of a normal solitaire game. It does support touch controls, supposedly. I didn't try that out much. It does work. And you might actually want to do that because otherwise you will be flipping through fairly large rows of cards to select the bottom card on the row. If you want to move the bottom card. As you may or may not know, the point of this is to get you start out with one card, one stack of one card, one stack of two cards, one stack of three cards, one stack of four cards, one stack of five cards, one stack of six cards, and one stack of seven cards, all of which you can only see the top one of, and then a deck. And your goal is to get all of the cards up into the top left spaces in order sorted by suit from ace to king. Ace is low here. And from the deck, you flip over either one card for draw one or three cards for draw three. And you can work down through that. Like if you flip over a card and you move it somewhere, you can then move the card that was under it. If not, you cannot do that. Or you can, and if you make it through the deck all the way, you can start over, but it costs points, which ultimately, as a solitaire game, it's all about score attack, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was going through the menus and I missed up my customization. I'm playing at the moment. One of the problems with this game is that I don't know if this game has it so that every game is winnable, because if you're doing this analog with an actual deck of cards, it's like a less than 50% chance for any given game of solitaire to be winnable if you don't make any mistakes. It's easy to fix that with to make it so that they're all winnable with a computer, but this doesn't say whether or not it's doing that. But even then, it's really easy to make a mistake, and it's not always obvious when you have until you reach a state where there are no more meaningful moves to be made. Like usually in that case, you can like move a stack of cards back and forth, but you can't actually do anything productive with it. Oh, I didn't mention the cards that are face up. If you move a face up card with a face down card under it, you reveal the top face down card under it, and you can stack cards onto each other on the 7 rows if they are one number down and the opposite color. Individual suit does not matter for that. So if you get kings face up, that's usually good. It's terrible when a low number card you need is trapped under a card that requires you to have already done it. It's very frustrating. I'm not great at solitaire.
Solitaire isn't really a game of skill all that much.
I mean, it is. There is skill to solitaire.
Right.
Though ultimately some of it does come down to a crapshoot of, okay, which of these two things can I do? And there is a effectively endless undo button on this. So if you can figure out where you went wrong, it's possible to roll the game back and try and do it right. But I can't make any guarantees for you that that will end well. You might just end up frustrated still. You know? So yeah, it's solitaire. It's aesthetically fancy, but there's not really anything mechanically special about it. The music choices are fairly nice. I didn't get through all of them because there are like 20 music choices, and I've only played like 20 games of this total because there's only so much time that you can play solitaire by yourself before you become a dull boy or something.
Right.
Sorry, I don't have a ton to say about this. It does look nice, but that's about its only distinguishing trait, I think.
Well,
do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things here. Like, how would you say it functions as a solitaire game on the Nintendo Switch?
I guess pick up and play wise, it's not bad. Oh, there are also leaderboards for your score to compare against people who are either near you or otherwise, but that's optional, and I really am bad about caring about that, as evidenced by the fact that I didn't remember to mention it until just now.
So,
it's not bad. The controls are pretty good, but I mean, Solitaire doesn't have that many controls. No. Again, I don't really like the touch controls because I don't like getting fingerprints or having to get a stylus. But it's like functional.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you don't feel like scrolling all the way down through a list of cards, that might be preferable to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry, there's just not a lot to say about Solitaire.
I get that. Like, it's kind of a hard thing to review, but I think this will make it easier. The price. Try to guess how much this costs.
I'll tell you what I think it's worth is like 5 to 7, maybe.
Right, $8.99.
That's not as bad as I was afraid it would be.
If it was any other game, though, because Solitaire is literally free with like literally any operating system, including Linux, Mac OS.
And there are free websites you can play Solitaire on. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a free Solitaire app on my phone. It's kind of the problem with trying to sell Solitaire.
Well, it's kind of
Especially
like
if you're
that
doing something
blackjack
like,
game we reviewed a long time ago.
yeah. It's not like, from what I'm getting here, it's a fine game of Solitaire. It's just Solitaire as a game doesn't have much
unless you
value.
really care about the aesthetics of your Solitaire, you're not getting much out of the money for this that you couldn't get somewhere for free.
And it's not helped that it's just Klondike. There's no free cell, there's no spider, there's no tripeats, there's no just any of the other variations of Solitaire. That's what Solitaire games tend to do, or tended to do if you asked for money. You tend to get a lot of versions of Solitaire. So it's a hard thing to gauge.
It does have hints if you're bad at Solitaire, but I think they subtract from your score.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So it's a bit of a paradox. Now, granted, it's a bit of an easier sell, I think, on the Nintendo Switch, because as far as I know, that doesn't have a free Solitaire game.
Yeah.
Though I'm trying to think if it's in the new 51 Classic Games.
I think it is, but that's not cheap either.
No, but once again, it's part of a much larger package.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the blackjack game we've reviewed. I mean, it's the same fundamental issue. Like, the game itself is pretty solid. Although
it's just not worth that alone.
Yeah, it's just not worth the price of admission. So, anyway, I think that's about all that needs to be covered for Fancy Solitaire. Or, I suppose one more question. How is the music?
The musics that I listened to were all, there's certainly a variety of tempo and style. But none of them are like super engrossing, but I mean, I think the music is actually pretty good. It's better than it needs to be, I think.
It's an interesting turn of phrase. Anyway,
normally when you're playing Solitaire, you just be like listening to your Walkman or iPhone or something.
Yeah.
I know Walkmans haven't been relevant for about 10 years, but neither have I.
I think we can leave it there. So yeah, that'll about do it for Fancy Solitaire. Be sure to tune in after the break as Petty Fan tackles Chess Knights Viking Land.